What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I wanted to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to talk about what my price prediction is for NIO approaching tomorrow and what could end up panning out as time goes on. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. Deposit $2,000 or more, and you're guaranteed 40. The offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So right now, NIO is completely range bound. We like to get bought back up around this 4.3 area. We did attempt to bounce today. You guys can see we formed this wick at 4.6, which is what we were expecting. But I was hoping NIO would try to hold up a lot better. Instead, we pumped only to reject. And NIO is showing some weakness as a result of that. That's despite the fact that NIO announced some very, very strong deliveries numbers. If we look at their deliveries, we saw another record once again. We have 7 months in a row of us getting over 20,000 deliveries, absolutely crushing expectations. And I think it's very, very, very impressive. Now, for them to really see a big move, we want to see a lot better earnings that come out because of this, not to mention a big improvement in their numbers. We're going to need around 30,000 deliveries for the month of December for them to meet their goal on the lower end. They have a very, very big goal for the end of this quarter and the end of the year. So that's what investors are essentially waiting for. And this news wasn't really enough to get them to really push the share price up. Despite the 28.9% year over year growth that we saw, and not to mention a very, very big growth quarter over quarter. And then we're also going to be looking to see what happens at least as time goes on. Now, there's also this news right over here about how we saw XBONG and some stocks jump on record deliveries. People are saying that December should be a better month. And I think that December is going to be, a very strong month for many of these EVs, which I think could lead to a lot of upside going into the month of January. So I'm hoping we see a lot of nice pushes that come as a result of that. And we'll see what happens moving forward. NIO has about 40 million in volume, not to mention the fact that other analysts and investors have the same view. I haven't really seen any changes compared to what I talked about yesterday, but we are seeing some improvements in financials. I'm hoping that we get a much better amount of buyers that step in after we see improved margins, but that's something we're still waiting for. For the market as a whole, the finance sector was in the red. The rest of the market was quite mixed. We did see tech trying to come back. And just know for tomorrow, we do have some big data coming out. Tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. The main piece of data is at 10 a.m. We have the JOLTS job openings and job quits reports. This could cause some volatility, so look and see what happens at 10 a.m. Besides that, for earnings for tomorrow, don't forget we have some minor banks, not to mention Salesforce after market close, and more retail for Wednesday and Thursday. Besides that, the market is still greedy. Greed is making up the majority of sentiment. Extreme greed is what's making up the majority of momentum right now. And then we're also seeing the puts and call option ratio continuing to dip as we're seeing puts being closed and calls being bought, and the majority of positions are in favor of bulls. So this is my view of NIO. Right now we're range bound, like I said before. 4.3 is the main support, and very close to 4.8 is where we tend to get rejected from. So we're just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. This looks like it's going to be dipping back down to 4.3, but if buyers come back, they could try to push it back up to 4.6. I think we're just gonna consolidate for now, not really doing a whole lot. Now, overall, there is this gap to fill down here, so I still think that there is a risk of NIO dipping a little bit lower. And if you look at the share price in the daily, it's on a downtrend. So there is that risk of it continuing to dip a little bit more, guys. So don't be prepared if we do. Don't be scared if we end up hitting the lower fours. However, it is not the end of the world because I believe that there's going to be a very big move coming once we get NIO Day, not to mention deliveries for the month of December, which is supposed to be a very strong month. And once we get a big improvement, if we do meet expectations, there could be a very, very big move being set for next year. I just don't think we're ready yet because we're continuing to reject. And there's still that risk of us coming down to fill this gap. So I think we could come down to fill the gap, unfortunately, and there is that risk of NIO potentially dipping. However, there could be a big bounce coming next year once we get our stuff together, once we see improved margins and such. As far as SPY goes, as of right now, there's no sign of a big rejection quite yet. The chart remains very bullish, and as long as we do not lose 602.5, excuse me. If we do lose that, we're looking for essentially 600 as our main support, followed by the 598 area. But there's no sign of us losing 602.5 or so. We remain more bullish. So I think the chart does favor 605 and 607.5 above that. If we lose 600, we will turn more bearish, but there's no sign of that. And I think that as of right now, we are favoring, we want to go closer to 605. Notice that on ES, We're pushing very nicely. We're going to be watching this candlestick. Can we break past 60,060? It depends on the data coming out for tomorrow, but overall, the chart remains bullish. We need to lose 6,037 to turn back to bearish, but so far we favor upside. There's no sign of a rejection quite yet. Bitcoin's trading sideways in this range right over here. We need to try to get back above 98,000. As of right now, it's starting to reject a little bit. And I do see a risk of us coming back down to about 94,500, and we'll see if we get a bounce off that or not. But for now, I think that the 94,000 area could be coming, and there could be a small dip coming for anything else. So please keep that in mind. There is that risk for Bitcoin. On Nvda, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We're looking at 138 as our main support. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. If not, we're looking for 136. So it could dip a little bit closer to 136, and we'll see if we get a bounce back up towards that 140 area. But overall, Nvidia is looking quite good. There's a nice inverse head and shoulders forming. There is some upside potential for 140 to 142. I just think that we might dip closer to 138 again. We'll have to see if we hold this. As long as we hold it, this will be bouncing back up for the 140s. So let's hope that 138 ends up holding. For other factors out there, we have Tesla. Tesla's dipping right over here. It did attempt to rebound a bit. I want to call out the fact that we have a nice cup and handle that's forming. There is that gap below, so even if we do get a small dip, it could try to bounce. As long as Tesla holds 344, this cup and handle could pan out very nicely. There could be a small dip coming before it tries to break out. And if we manage to get back above, the 360 area, if we do get that breakout, there could be a very explosive move coming. Does it have to be tomorrow specifically? We'll have to see about that. But I just want to say there is potential in Tesla stock. If there is a dip, look for a bounce. And overall, I see potential for this to try to break out. So give this more time to develop. NQ pushed very nicely to about 21,200. We have to hold this. If we hold above this, we're looking for 21,250 is our target. If we don't hold 21,200, we could be dipping, dipping back down for this imbalance of 21,150. So watch and see what kind of reaction we get at least from here. For the QQQ, if this 516 area is our resistance, if we break this, we're looking for a much larger pump for 517. If this rejects, we're looking for a dip back down for 512.5. We're at some tough resistance here, very close to this 516 area. So we'll have to see if the QQQ can break this at all-time highs. If we break this, we're going to remain bullish, but we have to break 516 to remain this way. Otherwise, I do see a small dip coming back down to 512. So we'll look for a test of 516 tomorrow. If it breaks, depending on the data release, this continues. If not, this could be dipping lower. For Aapl, we look more bullish. We're on a very, very strong uptrend. If we were to lose 238, we're looking for 235 as our targets. If we break 240, we remain more bullish. There is a tough resistance at 240. We have to see if Aapl could break that or not. It is very tough resistance. If we manage to break that, we're easily going up to 242 plus. So look for a big test at 240 tomorrow, a little push to 240. Let's see if we break that depending on the data, but so far Aapl remains more bullish. For MSTR, we're a little bit weaker here. We have a slanted head and shoulders like structure, and we need to get back above 391. Otherwise, this is at risk of coming down to fill its gap, taking us all the way down towards the 360 area. So I am seeing some weakness on this, especially as Bitcoin is slowing, and this could be dip into the 360s very soon if that does not get bought back up. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're trying to hold at 240. We're range bound between 240 and 244, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I think we might test 240. We'll see if we get a bounce or not, so give this more time to develop. Right now for coin, we're completely range bound, going back and forth and back and forth. We could dip back down to 297 and try to bounce again, but overall, we're just completely stuck. So give this some time. Just like others out there were just range bound, we might test 297. We'll see if we get a bounce off that or not. Amazon pushed to resistance at 212. We need to get back above 212 to remain bullish. If 212 breaks, we look for 215. If not, there might be a retest of like 208. My gut is telling me that there is going to be a risk of us coming back down to the breakout area around this like 208 to 209 area. Might dip a little bit. Then we'll see if we get a bounce off that. But look for a small dip on Amazon. For Meta, we have this resistance at 595. We did touch that today. There might be a small dip coming, which would be completely normal, back down to like 590, if not 585, before it tries to continue to push higher. Overall, the chart's bullish, but there might be a small dip coming closer to 590 or below before it tries to break out more. Microsoft is showing some signs of that too. It might retest the breakout at 428 before it tries to break out, but there is more upside potential if we manage to reclaim 430. So 428 could be tested, but if we bounce off that, look for 430. If we reclaim that, this will continue to go higher. Look for a small dip before anything else. Google also might dip back down to 172.5, not 171.37. We'll see if we get a bounce off that. But overall, that's all I'm essentially seeing. Anyways, that's what I'm seeing, at least for the charts thus far. I think we're doing a good job at holding up. SPY is on a very, very strong uptrend. There's no sign of this slowing down quite yet. So overall, I think we're doing quite well. Watch this resistance at 604 and we'll see how the market responds, if we get some kind of dip or not. But overall, the chart remains bullish, so I can't be too fixated on that quite yet. As far as NIO goes, right now this is very weak. I'm going to be honest with you all. This is continuing to reject, and there's a risk of us dipping to 4.3 tomorrow. It's not the end of the world, however, because once again, this could be a very good buying opportunity for next year as NIO continues to grow. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow for another update. Thank you for listening, and peace out.